Why is the climate changing? Where does light come from beside the sun? Or heat? People have been burning coal for light, heat, and other uses for thousands of years, starting with the Industrial Revolution in the late 18th and 19th centuries. That's the 1700s and 1800s. Coal increasingly became the go-to fuel to power ships and trains, to heat homes and buildings, and to help electrify, well, everything that could be lit up, like streets, homes, and buildings. From the beginning, coal helped do much more than power lights. The electricity it produced lit up innovation in extraordinary ways, from light bulbs to train engines, from factories to stoves. It's hard to imagine the last couple of hundred years without coal and all it helped enable. And it's impossible to imagine our daily lives today without electricity, which we rely on in so many ways, like keeping the lights on in our homes, milk and eggs fresh in our refrigerators, and our laptops and phones powered so we can be connected to the world and our friends. The same is true for oil, which helps power most of our cars, buses, and airplanes, and gets most parents to work and you to school, the movies, or over to a friend's house. In many places, coal remains a major energy source, including in the US, and in most places, oil remains the main fuel for transportation. The major sources of greenhouse gas emissions and drivers of climate change today are electricity, transportation, and industrial uses, think factories, largely because they still depend on coal and oil. Yet, in the 21st century, more so than ever before, there are a variety of renewable ways beyond coal and oil to generate energy. What makes these forms of energy renewable is that they come from sources that will never run out. The wind will always blow, the sun will always shine, and the ocean's waves will never cease to rise and fall. There's also lots of work being done on what's known as clean coal, or coal used for energy in a way that doesn't add, at least not as much, greenhouse gas to the atmosphere. When traditional coal is used to generate energy and electricity, or oil is used to power a car, carbon dioxide is emitted. Lots and lots of carbon dioxide. More carbon dioxide, or CO2, is emitted for every unit of coal used than from any other major fuel source. This is important because the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere over the past couple of hundred years, and particularly the last few decades, is a major reason our planet is warming. While there are many natural sources of carbon, including our breathing out, most of the carbon that's been put into the atmosphere in the last decades and even centuries is from how we make and use energy. Scientists estimate that 1/3 of all carbon dioxide emissions every year come from burning coal alone. Plants take in carbon dioxide and sunlight to produce food for themselves, and they emit oxygen in the process. This makes them perfect partners for humans. We breathe in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Historically, our forests, plants, and oceans absorbed all the carbon from carbon dioxide we put into the atmosphere. That's no longer true. Carbon emissions from more and more factories, utilities, cars, planes, buildings, and many, many other uses have tipped the scales way out of whack. At this point, the plants on land and under the ocean can't keep up with the amount of coal and fossil fuels we're burning. That would be true even if we weren't cutting down trees, but we are. And we're cutting them down at faster and faster rates around the world, so there are fewer and fewer to absorb carbon dioxide. Trees are being cut or burned down for lots of reasons, so that the cleared land can be used for farming. often in a way that's not sustainable, meaning it won't work well for very long, and so the wood can be used for fuel or to make furniture or for construction. Deforestation poses a particular threat to indigenous or native people around the world who live in forests. In the Amazon, indigenous people are working to secure the densely forested land on which they have hunted and lived for generations. Indigenous activists are fighting to stop people from cutting down trees illegally and working for more responsible tree cutting policies and practices. They're also advocating for their right to own the land they lived on for centuries. Illegal deforestation can be very profitable, and the people making a lot of money don't want to stop cutting down trees. Illegal loggers have threatened people throughout the Amazon. Even worse, in 2014, in Peru, illegal loggers killed 4 indigenous activists. That tragedy hasn't deterred the people working for more sustainable logging practices and more reforestation, or replacing trees that have been cut down in the Amazon. If anything, they're working even harder for their forests and future. Reforestation isn't happening everywhere, or even in a lot of places where lots of trees have been cut down. At least, it's not happening yet. We need to be replacing the trees that are being cut down through deforestation, as well as promoting responsible timber or tree farming. And we need to plant even more trees to try to keep up with the, at least for now, increasing amounts of carbon being released by burning fossil fuels. How best to do that looks very different in the Amazon than it does in Canada, China, or even Kenya. When planting trees around our homes or in our communities, it's important they're the right kind of trees for our local environment so that they'll grow well, fit in the local ecosystem, and are likely to live healthy, long lives to fight climate change into the future. Wangari Maathai is one of my all-time heroes. One day, she planted a tree to compensate for deforestation in her native Kenya. And then she planted another tree, and another. Then she recruited people to help her plant more trees, and she built a movement, appropriately named the Green Belt Movement. Wangari inspired Kenyans to plant 30 million trees and people across Africa to plant millions more. She also inspired a kid more than 5,000 miles away in Germany named Felix. In 2007, when Felix was 9 years old, he decided the world and kids couldn't wait on adults to fight climate change, and that he would follow Wangari's example and fight climate change and deforestation one tree at a time. That year, he launched Plant for the Planet with a goal of planting 1 million trees. He recruited friends and strangers alike to his effort, and they reached that goal in 2010. Their new goal? Planting 1 trillion trees by 2020. To find out more and how you can get involved, check out the website plantfortheplanet.org. And to learn more about Wangari's amazing legacy, please visit the website greenbeltmovement.org. If you want to start your own effort close to home in the U.S., the Arbor Day Foundation can help you find out which trees are best for your neighborhood and fight climate change at the same time. You can learn more at arborday.org.